Well, good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra. And, well, are congratulations in order? Or is it too early to call this a pass mark for INEC? Or is it too soon to tell? Well, this morning we have a little more information, which of course will answer that question. INEC has declared Ademola Adeleke the winner of the Osun governorship elections with 511,067 votes. He won 19 of the state's 30 local government areas, which his closest challenger, APC's Bola Oyebamiji, won 11. So the votes have been counted, the winner has been declared, and for now, Osun has a governor-elect who is actually the governor seeking another term. Congratulations to you, Adeleke. But let's go back to our original question. Is it a pass mark for INEC? Well, sort of. Because if we're marking yesterday purely on the question of whether Osun descended into widespread electoral violence, then INEC and the security agencies actually deserve some credit. This was an election that came with plenty of warning signs or baggage, political tension, allegations, counter-allegations, fears of violence, vote buying concerns, and enough political drama to actually make you wonder whether the ballot box was actually going to survive the day. Well, it did. And yet, for most part, people actually voted. They counted, they stayed back, they collated, and eventually INEC announced the result. That is not nothing. But there is always a but where Nigerian elections are concerned. We shouldn't confuse it with it didn't fall apart or it was perfect. Because yesterday still produced reports of ballot box snatching, intimidation, and also disruptions in some locations. There were also reports of delays, BVAS problems, suspected vote buying, and interference at some polling units. And then there was the reported attack around the collation center in Osogbo, where gunmen were said to have disrupted proceedings, and a man was reportedly shot dead. So let's be precise now. Osun was largely peaceful, but it was not violence-free. And that distinction absolutely matters, because in Nigeria, we sometimes celebrate the absence of catastrophe, as though catastrophe was the standard we were actually aiming for. I mean, imagine grading a student. Did he pass mathematics? No. Did he burn down the school? No. Well, excellent distinction? No. Democracy has a slightly higher bar, apparently. INEC's job is not merely to get an election to the finish line. It is to make sure the process is credible. That means voters should be able to vote freely. INEC officials should arrive on time, BVAS should work, voters should be counted correctly, results should be transparently collated, and if people have complaints, those complaints should be properly addressed. So yes, INEC deserves credit for getting Osun through the voting collation process without the widespread breakdown of order that many had feared from before. The security agencies, they deserve credit too, so congratulations to them. And perhaps more importantly, the people of Osun deserve credit for largely choosing the ballot over bottles, or choosing the ballot over battles, or choosing the ballot over, you know, the good old Nigerian political tradition of settling an argument with a chair or bottles. But the question of credibility doesn't disappear simply because INEC has announced a winner. In fact, this is where the real scrutiny begins. However, tell you what I will do. I will pause this monologue because right now the governor-elect is having a speech. Let's take a listen to that, and maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to conclude after he's done.
Osun State will be a reference point to other states, and it happened. So I've been tested and trusted. So that is why I'm not, surprised that the Osun people came out en masse. And here you go. And, they gave me the second time to govern them.
Okay, speaking about second term, we followed you to Iwo, where you spoke about turning Iwo to a small London. Yes. So starting from infrastructure, what are the plans you have rolled out for the next 4 years?
Well, let me first of all say this. My vision for Osun State is to, I always hear Osun State is a civil servant state. My vision is to make sure that Osun State move from being a civil servant state to industrial, state. So that's my vision for Osun State. And of course, continuity for what I've done. We have our blueprint, and then we're just going to open it and then start developing Osun State all over. As I'm talking to you right now, Osun State is now a reference point.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Governor. Maybe 2 more questions to go. Speak about inclusion, especially when it comes to women and then the youth generally. I would like to know your plans for that for the next 4 years.
Of course, I'm going to encourage women to have some women in my cabinet, so I will continue. And of course, the youth too, I will continue. Then I want to tell Osun State, this is democracy. And some people, they will vote for you, and some people will not vote for you. That's what we call democracy. As long as I'm the governor of Osun State, I'm a governor for all parties. So please come around, give me your ideas so that we can join hands together and move Osun State forward.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Can you do that, your hand?
Mercy, good morning. Thank you so much for that report. Now that it has been declared that the governor, the sitting governor has won this election, I don't know what else to say than to say, Mazino, what do you want to say?
Congratulations. Congratulations to the governor-elect as at yet, because, well, it's a very interesting dynamic for Osun, which, by the way, happened right in the middle of my monologue, which I intend to finish. But in any case, it's been a very interesting, I would not call it a battle, but a very interesting election. And for me, it is that there is something to note here, the fact that I would like to say, as long as this goes violence-free, the people won. People turned out.
Bless you.
That was one of the units with which this election was being judged by. Would people come out? Noting the recent voter apathy when it comes to elections in Nigeria, this was actually a test of what 2027 would be like. And the success of the elections then was, or, well, will be predicated on how this goes.
You know,
although Osun has a history of going to court when it comes to elections.
Yes, I was heading there. You know, yesterday we talked about how the other election was so close, where we had a 482 aspect, the difference in you know, results. And when I saw the result in my mind, I quickly did the calculation. I'm like, okay, so how many? But it was 66,000 thereabout. I'm like, okay, we're safe. Like you said, Osun State is known for, you know, going to court to challenge the collated results. So hopefully we will see and hope that that doesn't happen this time. So I will let you finish your monologue, Mazino.
Well, not to finish. Just wanted to say that, well, it is indeed a pass for INEC. And perhaps maybe it's a distinction, we should call it that, because the final judgment on this election will not be based only on whether people were able to vote. It also depends on whether they believe their votes were properly counted and whether the losing side believes the process was fair enough to actually accept. So congratulations once again to Governor Adeleke. Congratulations to the people of Osun State. And, of course, yes, perhaps congratulations to INEC. With one eyebrow still raised.
Well, congratulations again to the governor, but I'm being told that we have the governor's sister addressing the press. Let's take a look.
I thank all our friends that stood by us during this period. I want to thank God, and I thank all you media houses. I also thank the security people that stood by us. As you know, that in Osun State, we don't have security on our side, but we have God on our side. Yes. And God did it for us. Glory be to God Almighty.
What does this vote mean for the people of Osun? How do you intend your government and the party intend to bring more development projects and development?
Oh, sure. You can imagine. His Excellency spent, within 3.5 years, you can see what he did in Osun State. He literally turned Osun State to a small London. Yeah. He touched all the cities in Osun State, not just one particular city, but he went around all the 30 local governments in Osun State. You can see what he did within the 3.5 years he spent. Imagine somebody that can do that in 3.5 years. You imagine, you tell me, what he's going to do in the next 4 years of his second term, I can assure the people of Osun State that he's going to do better, much, much better than what he did in his first term. So Osun people should expect more goodies from His Excellency. Thank you so much.
Sister of Governor Ademola Adeleke, who addressed, the press, and she said the security was not on Osun's side, but God is on their side. And Mazino is like,
you need translation?
So much.
You need a translation to that?
Yes, translate.
Well, when you take a look at the security architecture that was deployed for the Osun elections, majority of the police. The police is federal might because it's a federal, coordinated police force. So you'd expect that since he's the Accord party, and this is what I am deducing from what she says, since it's the Accord party, not the APC, you'd expect that things would not be in their favor when it comes to security. So she meant if the police was not on their side, they had God on their side. And for a Sunday morning.
Dear chat, do you think the 25,000 personnel will go back now?
Maybe we should keep them for 2027 January elections, I guess. But then that also raises questions about the might that you'd need when it comes to security for 2027. Yes, it was successful, 25,000 people, personnel deployed. But when you're talking about an election for an entire country, God knows how many votes.
Remember, they had mentioned that they're going to do a lot of recruitment. So the question now is, we have exactly 6 months counting from yesterday to presidential election.
6 months?
Yes, it's 6 months.
Much less than that.
Are we going to have those recruitment done? Because if you are sending 25,000 personnel to Osun State, I believe everybody is expecting that you have that amount of personnel everywhere when it comes to the general elections?
Physically impossible, if you ask me. But then that's not all to consider. You have to also consider if these personnel that you would be deploying for the 2027 elections would be trained properly.
Well, we have 6 months to find out.
Well, you should know better about trainings in the Nigerian police force, seeing as you are a barrack girl. So tell us.
I am not a barrack girl. I was born.
Same difference. Go,
to a policeman. The training back then was very intense, and then they get to move you. It was like an exchange program. Sometimes you were mobile police. Sometimes you have to travel out to like Angola, for Peace Corps and stuff. I don't know what they do now, but that was years ago. And, they had to transfer you to different areas, and then you grow from there and stuff. And it was really interesting. The trainings, the uniform, it was fascinating. But, well, that is... Today's not about me. Let's go on a short break. When we return, we dive into our conversations. So stay with us.
Welcome again. It's Breakfast Extra here with Mazino and Celestine. Now, INEC has declared Accord's Ademola Adeleke winner of the 2026 Osun governorship election, securing another term in office. But beyond the result, how was the election conducted? What happened on the ground? And what does Adeleke's victory mean for Osun State? Now, we examine... Oh, I'm sorry, Queen. Apologies.
It's okay. Let's now continue.
We examine the conduct of the election, reports of irregularities and violence, the voter experience, and the factors that shaped the outcome. And we'll also speak to our correspondents across the state and get an assessment of the guests. Now, joining our... Well, we first will start with Nelson Ekujimi. He's election observer. We'll also be expecting Wasu Oyedekun Ali, Executive Director for the Osun Masterminds. But, Mr. Nelson, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this morning here for Breakfast Extra.
Good morning, Mr. Nelson. Yesterday, you were...
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Yesterday, you were present in Osun State to, examine the elections. So now that the governor has been, announced the winner, what would you say the overall conduct of the election was? And do you think that what you saw on ground is what is translated this morning?
Absolutely. The election is guided by the Constitution as well as the Electoral Act. And the role of INEC is explicitly stated. And if you are on the field, you would have seen that in consonance with the provisions of the law, INEC conducted the election in that manner. And under the law, INEC is expected to conduct election in substantial compliance. So for this election, INEC was at the polling station at the appropriate time. They came with enough materials. The process of accreditation took place as well as voting. And there was a machine to authenticate voters. And for me, the turnout was just, when I was on this show, yesterday, I was very clear about it, that the turnout was very massive. And if you look at the total figure released by INEC, you can see that it's far beyond 50% threshold, which has never happened in a very long time in our democratic journey. So it's a reaffirmation of the people's will. It is to tell the doubting Thomases out there, the naysayers, who will tell you vote does not count. At least this is a testimonial. And for me, I'm very, very happy about that.
Grand. Nelson, I was wondering, this morning, if you listen to our monologue, we actually tried to give INEC a score mark for the elections, the conduct of the elections. I'm wondering, first off, what do you think about INEC's conduct?
INEC's conduct of the election was excellent. Excellent in the sense that INEC promised that they will be at the polling stations by 7 a.m. because as observers, we had a stakeholders engagement with INEC. And they made a promise and they kept it. INEC said by 8:30 a.m., polling stations will open for accreditation and voting. And from our observation as well as reports, by 8:30 a.m., over 90% of the polling stations were up and doing. And INEC said polling closes by 2:30 p.m. But if you are on the queue before the close of polls, you will be allowed to vote. I was at polling station till 5 p.m. yesterday, and I saw people still voting because of the massive turnout. And the Beavers machine was functional, even though we had some instances of some persons among the voters whom the machine could not authenticate. So if the machine is if we have 500 voters and the machine has authenticated 499, would we now say, because the machine was unable to authenticate maybe 1, 2, or 3 voters, who say the machine didn't function? Absolutely not. So for that type of situation, the machine will have scored, the functionality of the machine will have been 97%. And people and I know that in any academic exercise, whether you score 95 or I score 72, we will both have an A. So the conduct of INEC in regards to this election was perfect.
Okay. Okay, so we're now joined by Benga Ademola.
Yes, Nelson,
yes,
we're with you.
We're with you. We now have Benga Ademola, who's the Human Design System Coach and Social Entrepreneur. Benga, can you hear me? Good morning. Benga, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning, Queen. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm not here alone. I'm with Mazino Peel, but the governor's
yes, I can see my friend there.
Ademola Adeleke has been announced the winner. Now, based on yesterday's election, would you say that the people voted for the party or the people voted for the personnel?
The people voted for performance, productivity, profitability, humanity, nationality, patriotism.
Oh, is that Ogbenga?
Did you hear that?
Yes, we heard that. That was very, very precise and succinct, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also
that was what people voted for.
Yes. So I also want to know whether you think that this will follow the course that most other Osun elections follow, which is part 1, we vote, we collate, we announce, and part 2, we go to court. You think we might see that this time, judging by the conduct of the elections?
I don't think that will be the normal thing that will happen. However, this is Nigeria. This is not the first time that we'll see this kind of a thing. And at the end of the day, you will still see people who are not contented, who are groused, who are not satisfied by the election result. You know, it is only in this part of the world that we like to waste money in the court for no reason, for no cause. So for me, I don't think that is necessary. But like I said, the DNA in the normal Nigerian man can spring up tomorrow morning and say, you know what, we're heading to court.
So let me come back now to Nelson. Nelson, I wanted to address the big issue that we had pre-election, and that was on security, with 25,000 personnel deployed to Osun State. I'm wondering if INEC actually dodged that big question of whether there could be a violence-free election. There were reports of skirmishes. There were reports of tear gas being deployed. There were reports of, I think, a center being attacked. But these were, well, relatively not as grave as we had expected that they would be from before the elections. So based on security, would you say that this is a pass mark for the architecture that was deployed? And would this architecture be, well, one that we could use again come 2027? Nelson.
Is highly commendable. But you must recognize that this was just one state out of 36 states. So the 2027 election is going to be conducted generally across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. So, and also we must recognize that the security, the successful conduct, the credibility of any election is not that of the police or INEC alone. It's a joint responsibility of all the stakeholders. It's a collective one. The stakeholders must be ready to play by the game. So also the security agencies. The deployment was because of, the nature of our political gladiators, whom we have not seen, who don't see election as a contest. And to borrow from the word of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, they see it as a do-or-die affair. And that is why we have cases like the violence that characterize the pre-election and the pockets, very significant incidences of electoral violence on election day. So the security architecture must be commended, and we just hope that this type of security, cover can be, extended all over Nigeria, not only in election days, but 24/7 in our lives. The responsibility of the security architecture of any state is to make us safe at any time, not only when we are conducting elections.
Right. Now, Benga, a lot of people talked about, the 25,000 personnel that made it to Osun State for this election. Would you say that number was one of the reasons that made, the voters come out in their number because they felt safe?
Maybe 20% of the reason.
Okay.
I don't believe that's one of the reasons, because the fear for the people before was the fact that the ruling party deployed the security personnel, especially the police and the civil defense, maybe not the military. They didn't have confidence in them that, they are coming to support the ruling party candidates. And remember also that our governor in Edo State had already expressed and manifested some verbal diarrheas on national TV, to the point that some of the thugs in Edo State who could not fix their own bad roads that leads to the government house, who could not fix the road between Benin and Warri, Mazino, some of our people went to Warri over the weekend for the wedding ceremony of a naval officer who is our member in the biking community, and you need to hear the report of the situation report, bad report in Edo State. But he left his responsibility, he left his duty post and came to Osun to come and insult a sitting governor. So what you see in Osun is the determination of the people in Osun. That's what you see, that's what you saw. And you will see in some of the video clips that went viral where they were challenging the security personnel that you cannot do bala blue here. You cannot mess up here. Do you understand? So people are frustrated that we don't want bad lives again. It is determination of the people beyond having insurance or assurance in the in the military personnel or in the security agents that were brought to Osun State. What we see majorly since yesterday is determination. That you know what we see in Osun State is progress.
So
this is progress. Anywhere in Osun, the man did not just make Osogbo, the capital city, a likable and livable place, but he entered every corner of Osun State, and that's what we are talking about: good governance beyond politics.
So you mentioned that the 25,000 personnel or more was just 20% of the decision. So what would you say? Of course, the governor moved from PDP to Accord, and we did not have PDP on the ballot. Would you say there's also percentage in terms of the PDP people following him into Accord?
Like I said, and I'm repeating, what you saw yesterday up until this morning has nothing to do with party politics. Let me tell you, from investigation, from research, and from what we have seen visibly, if dancing Governor Ademola Adeleke had moved to a new party that was registered by INEC a day to the election, he will still win. Take that and go and present it in the bank.
Take that.
Because you see, Nigerians now understand what good governance means beyond politics. Political party is just a vehicle that carries the candidate into the office. After election, what we expect is good governance. Make life comfortable for people, and that's what the man has done in the last 4 years.
Okay.
Thank you, Benga. First off, let me check the definition for balablu. If you don't mind, the Nigerian political art of answering a simple question with so much confidence, grammar, and hand movement that 5 minutes later nobody understands. So I don't know who you're speaking of there, Benga, but yes, that's the definition. But let me come to Nelson. Nelson, I want to ask an express question once again. We might have touched on this, the first question that we asked you, but why did Adeleke win? Was it his popularity? Was it the opposition's weakness? Was it the structure he might have brought with him from other political parties? What exactly would you pinpoint as the one factor that made this a win for him?
Well, for me, as an election observer, it's a mixed bag. You had the governor that was an incumbent. So he had the paraphernalia of that office that he has, enjoyed in the last almost 4 years. And don't be surprised that he must have built some networks. And if you recognize that the first time he was in office, he got into the government house through the ticket of the vehicle called the PDP. And that PDP structure is still in existence. And maybe some of them, jump ship with him to a court party. So, and if you know the politics of the Southwest states, you know that our politics is very, very local. A lot of local underlying tendencies must have, influenced the mind of the voters to decide where they want to, cast their lots, which they have done. But for me, the most important thing here is that, at least for once, the naysayers, the people who never see anything good in our democracy, who are always badmouthing the electoral umpire, badmouthing the security agencies, at least for once, they are prodding the same system that tomorrow, when the game changes, when the shoe is on the other feet, they will come and tell you it was rigged. Now, nobody is talking about rigging. We are all conscious of the fact that, look, the election was conducted properly in line with the provisions of the Electoral Act, and the winner has emerged. So if tomorrow the shoe is on the other foot, we expect people to be to be civil, to be respectful, to be responsible in their utterances and their conduct, because we don't have any other country but Nigeria. So for me, the factors that must have shaped this election are very many. There are very many. I can point to you, for example, if you look at the administration before the Governor Ademola Adeleke administration that had a running battle with regards to finances with the public workers. That was one factor that a lot of people were talking about. So those set of people in any society, they are a critical block. And wherever they decide to pitch their tents, we also have a determining factor where the pendulum will swing. So I can't point to one factor as being responsible for the victory. The people themselves know why they did what they did, and it is their choice. It is their right. Well, and I say congratulations to them.
I think you touched much on it. I think incumbency has a lot to do with it, and familiarity, whether you like it or not, also does have a lot to do with it. He is a very relative kind of governor. But Nelson, still on you, I wanted to know, since as an observer, how significant was vote buying in these elections? There were reports that there were certain instances of vote buying, and I'm like, okay, so when does it become significant enough to be regarded as an ailment or an illness in the system?
Well, if you have followed our political trajectory, the menace of vote buying has been something a lot of us, almost all of us, have been on the same page, campaigning vigorously against, sermonizing our people that you can't sell 4 years of your life. I don't know how much it will amount to in Naira and Kobo. And in the election in Osun, we had so many reports that some persons were paid maybe a week, maybe 1 month before. But unlike what used to happen, where you see people openly at the polling stations, you see a crowd gathered, somebody will tell you that man over there is giving them money to vote for his party. Then you see somebody else at the polling, very close to the polling booth, looking at how people have voted and, inducing them. And even the people themselves get to the polling station on election day and they are looking right and left, looking for the ISB that look, I'm here for sale. How much can you give me? But in the case of Osun election, you saw that that prevalent, open vote buying, we didn't see it. So those reports that we had, I think that is the responsibility of the police to investigate that votes were bought days ahead of the election. I don't have that fact because I wasn't a witness to that, even though I was in the state about 2 weeks before the election. But what I saw at the polling station, I didn't see any form of vote buying.
All right.
Well, Nelson, while you were observing, of course, you mentioned yesterday that you went to different polling units in local government. Which area or local government surprised you the most in terms of the turnout and, the reports from INEC?
Yes, you can't single out a local government. When I was with you yesterday, I told you that all the local governments, I went to about 4 local governments, and the turnout was the same. From 7:30 a.m., you need to see how the people were coming out. I went to, especially around the C, that's Ward 3, Atao Jadi, Ward 4, and some other areas, and the crowd was just the same everywhere. And from reports all over the state, you saw the massive turnout at the polling station. I just told you that I was at a polling station at 4 p.m., almost 5 p.m., and we still had over 200 people waiting to vote. So it's a testimony of the fact that the people have a trust and confidence in the electoral system. So you can't single out any local government. Look at the results returned, 1,055,000 thereabouts, which is over 50%. So for me, I'm very happy about this turnout in the election, and I hope we can do more in other elections.
Okay, Benga, my turn to have you answer a question. Benga, so the interesting thing about the elections yesterday is that you could divide the preference of the people into 3 different places. Did they vote for the personality, did they vote for the party, or did they vote for performance? Especially when it comes to party, in recent times we've seen people agitate for certain parties only because of the party names or the group of members who are inside of that party. In this case, well, he switched parties from one election to the other, yet the vote still came to him. So are Osun electorates, are the voters now voting based on, well, what exactly are they voting based on? Is it the party? I think we can scrap that. So is it personality or is it performance at this point?
Okay, thank you, Mazino. Let me take you on briefly on the history. Remember that his elder brother, popularly known as Sherubawan, was the first executive governor of Osun State, if you remember. And during that time, people loved him. Trust me, I don't know what this family, I don't know what the ancestors, I don't know what the great-grandparents had done in Osun State that really make people to shower their love on this family. But guess what? There's something I discovered. I may be wrong. Up till now, I have not seen anywhere in Nigeria where two brothers, siblings from the same mother, had become governors of a state. Like I said, you can fact check, you can correct me, but as far as I'm concerned, up till now, I've not seen. This is the only family I've seen whereby you see two brothers from the same womb becoming governor in a state. It says a lot about that family, about that lineage. You know, so if I'm going to give it percentage, I'm going to say to you that, you know, personality, cum family, maybe 30-40%, which now translated into loving him for his performance. I keep on saying performance, not because I read news, but because I went to Osun State. This morning, as I was jubilating, my wife said, "Why are you jubilating? You are not even jubilating about Ondo State or your state." And I said, "Don't forget, I was born in Ikirun 50-something years ago. I was born in Ikirun. In fact, let me tell you, during my 50th, I didn't do party. I went to Ikirun, to that hospital where I was born, to celebrate with the children that were born on my birthday. Guess what? For 3 hours, we couldn't locate the hospital. I was on phone with my mom trying to describe, because development has swallowed everywhere. You know, so I know what I'm saying. The development cut across the state, not just building some infrastructures in the capital city, but it went, it cut across. And that's, for me, it's a plus, it's a good one.
Nelson, I want you to please answer the same question. What was it for you, personality versus performance? Nelson, are you with us? Nelson? Nelson, I hope you can hear us. Okay, good.
Like I told you earlier,
Nelson, can you do us a favor? Nelson, I hope you can hear us, Nelson. We've had to mute you. I'm going to ask you now to please turn off your video so we can make do with your audio. I think it'll be better then. So if you can hear me, please turn off your video. Let's just make do with the audio. If you've done that, go ahead.
I can hear you.
Good. We can hear you better now.
Well, Benga, while we're waiting for Nelson to join, I just wanted to ask you, of course, you've talked about how, you know, happy you are in terms of the outcome of the Osun elections yesterday. So I wanted to ask, based on the voters' performance or the way they turned out yesterday, would you say this is reflecting what we should expect come January 2027 for the general elections? Benga?
Oh, okay. Yes. Sorry. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
What I can say is that we pray and we hope that this that we witnessed since yesterday till this morning will also play out during the general election in 2027. However, Nigerian politicians, you can't trust them like that. You can't trust them. So I cannot tell you, Queen, for a fact that 100% we should be sure, or we should be certain of this same process and this same procedure to take place in 2027. But we pray and we hope for the same thing to happen. We will be glad because Nigerians are getting wiser. Nigerians are getting they're getting educated, you know, on daily basis. The literacy level is increasing by the day for them to understand the difference between politics and governance. But I do not trust Nigerian politicians to that level. Trust me.
While you're not trusting Nigerian politicians, let's hope that you trust the citizens. Now, Gbega, if you were sitting in front of Governor Adeleke right now, what would you tell him that, okay, see, these are the things that the Osun people are saying to you for them to re-elect you into power?
Oh, thank you. Number one, he should continue that infrastructural development, especially roads. You know, he said something critical during his interview with the town hall meeting with New Central. He said Osun State is primarily civil service and farming state, agricultural state. So they need good roads for them to transport their farm produce from inside the bush to where they will sell. So let Governor Ademola Adeleke continue that good job for people to be more productive and profitable. Number two, he should increase security. Security is very, very, I mean, don't forget, it's because we are at peace in the last few weeks. That's why we've forgotten that, hey, the kidnappers, the bandits are still around. And don't forget that their last operation was just a few hours away from Osun there in around Obomosho. So he should ensure that the security of the state is tight. Number three, education, and youth development. Of course, that's my constituency. And health sector. And of course, I see and I listen and I hear testimonies from the market women, market men, the babailerons, the yalojas and all that, how they are thriving. It should continue that as well. But education, health, it should make them priority.
I hear we have Nelson back. Nelson, can we get confirmation that you're back with us? Do we have Nelson back, please?
I'm back with you if you can hear me.
Fantastic. Nelson, let's take a... Yes, we can. Let's take a look at the numbers now, okay. Nelson. I'm wondering what the geographical spread of Adeleke's victory tells us about his win. I want us to take a look at that now. I'm going to compare his numbers to that of Oyebamiji, just the two of them. And I'm going to focus on one particular space. But let's start with Osun Central. He had 6,970 more votes than Oyebamiji. He came in at 169,064. Osun East, he came in at 152,951. That's 14,277 more than Oyebamiji. Now, Osun West, where he got 189,052 votes against 143,997 for Oyebamiji. That is 45,055 votes more than his contender. So what can this tell us about how the people voted for Adeleke?
Well, the voting pattern, if you look at it very well, you can see that Adeleke amassed a very huge margin in his part of the state. And that tells you clearly the local coloration of our politics. You can see even Oyebamiji, because when you were asking that question, the system froze. I couldn't hear you. I only had the last parts. You can see that Adeleke, in those places where you expected him to win, he took a large chunk of the vote. Because in politics, you must be able to do your arithmetic. This is where I have strength. This is where I have weakness. What do I do to bolster my weak points? What do I do to have a better advantage where I have the strength? So if you look at the voting pattern, you will see that the candidates won in areas where they come from, and they won convincingly, which was expected. And also in some places where you expected Adeleke to win, you know, he pulled off a very good numbers there with regards to even the man that came second. So by and large, it is the local coloration, the local sentiment that has been able to sway the voters and for the candidates to have garnered these figures. So I think that is the little I can respond on now, okay, because of what I heard. Because like I told you, when you started the question, I had the beginning But in the middle, I lost you.
No,
I just got to hear only the last part.
You did very fine in answering that. In fact, you answered just adequately as I expected that it would go. And you even used the word I was expecting you to use. You said sentiments. Now, when it comes to elections, how safe is that? That sentiments is what rules. Sentiments is what actually carries people to the polls as against the performance of the individual that they're voting for. In the case of Osun now, would sentiments come back to bite them in the back? Or is it okay to vote based on sentiments?
What's running our system? You can't take away our emotional, outfall. So if the people have decided that they want to use sentiments to determine who governs, who rules their life, who shapes their destiny, like I said earlier on, I'm a Democrat, and I believe in the voice of the people. So if the people have decided, no matter even if I'm the wisest man, and I think they are foolish, sorry for me using that word, to have decided to cast their lot in one direction, then if the people have decided to cast their lot, and I think I'm the only one wise, then something must be wrong with me. So I believe strongly that you cannot take away those sentiments, those primordial, tendencies that shapes our life. That is just the way we are as the people. Because if you remember, some people will tell you, we have a proverb in Yoruba land. I'm a Yoruba man. They will tell you, if you allow me to translate that, it means that no matter how bad the waist of your son or daughter is, you will not take the bead and take it to beautify another person's son or daughter. That no matter what, you want the bead to beautify what is your own. That is exactly how we are as human beings.
Okay. Well, thank you, Nelson Kujimi, and of course, thank you, Benga Ademojimi, for joining us and having this conversation. Of course, Governor Ademola Adeleke has been declared the winner of Osun governorship election, and he has secured another term in office. But of course, beyond the result, questions remain about the conduct of the election and if this will end in court. We wait and see. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Now let's go on a very, very short break. When we return, we'll have conversations with our reporters, and then we'll move to the next story. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's dive right into our big report. The Kano State Government is pushing back against claims circulating on social media over the recently concluded mass wedding in the state. Viral videos showing elderly men at the event sparked questions and reactions online, with some suggested that the men were among the grooms who benefited from the government-supported mass wedding.
But the state government says that it is not the case. Kano State Commissioner for Information Ibrahim Waya says the men seen in the video were retirees who attended the event and were not among the beneficiaries of the mass wedding. The government is now urging the public to disregard what it describes as misinformation. To help you understand what happened there, we have with us Stephen Enoch in Kano. Stephen, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Stephen, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Stephen, just tell us, give us the backstory of this situation and what do you know about these elderly men in the viral video?
Spill the tea.
All right. So the Kano State Commission for Information, Bribe, said that the men in that viral video are not, most of them are not, grooms, that they are retirees from ISBA. Although from the video I did, the report I did, which went viral, the men in those videos told us that they are part of the people who got married in the mass wedding. Of course, that was in the mosque on Friday. That's the Friday, that's last week Friday, yes. And I interviewed them, and they had this tag of them in the written angle. In English, it means groom. And they all had numbers there. So that was why I was able to identify them as the groom, and I interviewed them. And all of them I interviewed told me, that was before the commissioner, made his statement. Most of them said that they are grooms, and they said, they're happy getting married, and they're happy about all of this. So most of the men there, all the men I interviewed that went viral, from the one that you sexual did, they're all married. They are all in the master. They are grooms, not retirees from this back. From what News Central did, I can say that predictably.
Okay, Enoch, are you saying that we have videos of these men that were being suspected to be old men in your report? If we take a look at your report now, would we find these men in it? Okay, so
yes, you'll find them. There are some men. There's a person who I interviewed. He's 55 years old. I interviewed one that is around 60 years old. Oh. And even during the reception, that is on Saturday, there were more older men there. Maybe that is the person the commissioner is referring to. But from the one News Central did, which has some old men, the people I interviewed, they were all groups. Maybe it's talking about some other people. But from the one News Central did, I can say that all of them I interviewed were all groups.
Enoch, let's take a look at that report right now, because we'd like to see in picture what these men look like. Let's take a look at Enoch Stevens' report from over the weekend, last week.
This is my first marriage. Okay. And I'm not married widow. I'm married 17 years old. I'm very happy today.
Yanzu na da shekara 55. Matata ce ta rasu shine kungiyar mu suka dace na ga ba zan iya ba. In ba tallafin gwamnati ba zan iya ba. To da yana daga cikin da aka bude ne dai na ba da sunana aka sana ciki.
Cikin alheri muka abin alhamdulillah. Ba kuma cewa aka yi aure wannan ba ne mai tafiye da shekara ɗaya ma ana neman ta Allah kuma ya kawo aka. Mun yi farin ciki mun yi mana wallahi.
Muna addu'a insha Allah Allah ya ba mu zaman lafiya shine a bada mun maraya sunan manzo Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yanzu dai ƙari ne na kuma jin ƙarin da nayi. Na jin dadin sa wallahi. Yanzu mata nawa gare ka? Yanzu? To har da ita da wallahi uku ne.
Well, welcome back. I'm trying to calm Queen down here. Enoch, what you didn't see is while your report was going on, Queen dropped her jaw. I've been trying to get her to
I picked
close
it back
her
up.
mouth.
I picked it back up.
But so those are the gentlemen you spoke with.
The grooms.
The grooms, and they're getting married. They were getting married on that day.
Yes, those are the grooms, and they got married that day.
Awesome. Congratulations to them.
Okay.
Enoch, before I come back to you, we're being joined by Azira Abdulmalik. She's a social impact consultant. Azira, are you with us?
Yes, so good morning.
Good morning,
Azira.
Azira. First thing, before I ask you, did you marry on that day?
I don't think so. No.
Azira, you're blushing. Okay. Now, Azira, you've seen this event.
This tradition.
Tell us about it. What are the ages of these girls? Because clearly we've seen the age range of the men up to 65 years old. Tell us about the girls that are involved in this tradition.
Oh, Azira seems to be frozen. I hope she got the question. Once she's no longer frozen, we'll get back to her. Okay, she's still frozen. If Azira can hear us, maybe you could turn off the video and the audio would do. But let's hope we can get you back.
Enoch, the government had talked about a way of, this is their way of adding value to the economy and all. Were you able to talk to any government official as to why this is supposed to...
It's necessary.
Thank you. Why it's necessary and how is it adding to the economy of the estate?
Well, the only government official that spoke was the Commissioner for Information. And, when I tried to get others to speak or to join us, most of them just refused. And some of them said that, News Central paid people to abuse the government, all of that, right? So, it is something that most of the officials don't want to speak on, except it is from maybe the government or they have authority to speak or they have permission to speak. But one thing I realized from the interview I did with another group that was experienced with me, they told me that till now they have not gotten the money for because there are two funds that have been given, which sums of 200,000 naira. Number one is the bride price, and number two is the money for empowerment. And when I spoke to them, they were very happy that they were part of the marriage, and they thanked the government, and they said that although they hadn't gotten a lot yet for the money for the bride price and the money for the empowerment, and they're pleading with the government to, these steps up to ensure that they get the money. So if the government is listening or they can see it, some of the people who got married are saying that they haven't gotten those alerts and they are hoping, because some of them, the person who I interviewed last week, the person showed me a particular place that the wife will use for a store to, sell provision and stuff, and they are ready, but they said till now they are not gotten. They don't know why it is being delayed, but they are pleading with the government to, I will call them. I called them this morning. I called them before we came on the show. I called them and they said till now they have received the money for the bride price, the money for the empowerment. They are pleading with the government to take some steps up to so that they can start their lives, the way they want to.
So, Enoch, from what you've just said, you've noted that there are sentiments against the press, or at least particularly against News Central, and you have also said that there are incentives given to these grooms, or at least these families. We're going to go on a break, Enoch, and when we come back, I have more questions based on those realizations. Let's go on that break. We'll be back with Breakfast Extra. Do stay with us.
Welcome back. Now, before the break, we're having an amazing conversation about mass marriage. And of course, we have our correspondent, Stephen Enoch, with us to give us a breakdown of that video of the, the ages of the grooms and the ages of the brides. And of course, we also have Azira Abdul-Malik, who is a social impact consultant. Stephen, before I come back to you, Azira, yes, I was asking you earlier before the network. Tell us, you had mentioned earlier that this is a tradition. How long has it been going on for? And what are the age range of these children, the girls?
Women.
Women.
This has actually been going on, I think, for about 5 years now. I think 4 or 5 years or thereabout. So, and the ages, like one of the interviewers mentioned, he got married to a 17-year-old. So from the age range of 14 to 49 years of age, those women come out and they vulnerably ask the governor, or let me say the government, that they want to get married because it's been difficult to actually get a husband, or possibly the husbands cannot afford to pay their bride price. So they try to figure out a way that they can, well, they call it a subsidized wedding. Assault.
Oh, so the government is dealing with inflation, as you know.
Yes.
Azira, I'm sure that there must be some historic or traditional genesis to this. Is there anywhere in the tradition of these people where they have these kinds of weddings before the government stepped in? Is it usual to give girls out in marriage to men who are way over their perceived age or status?
Oh, yes. I think it has gone way back. The whole idea of getting married to older men, getting married to very younger women has really gone, back to, I think, 40, 50 years ago.
Okay.
But having a mass wedding is something that's different. Okay. It's quite unique, and it's something that I think this government came about with it. Because as you can see, most of the grooms are wearing a red cap.
Yes,
so I don't want to say anything about it, but I feel like it has a relationship with the government.
We see that.
Well, Azira, you mentioned something, and it kind of ticked I don't even know what to say, but if the girls are pleading to the government to help them find grooms because the people they love or the people who are coming for their hand in marriage are not able to pay the dowry, is the government not slashing the money at the end of the day in terms of the dowry? What is the benefit here for these people? Is it like a blind date, anyone I pick, I follow, or it's a match made in heaven? I'm trying to understand the narrative as to who's gaining here. Is it to make the citizens happy, or there's something that the government is gaining that we don't know about? Azira, did you hear me?
I didn't get that. You could take it again. I didn't get that. Sorry.
I was asking, in terms of the girls or the women pleading to the government to help them find grooms because most of the grooms they encounter were not able to pay their dowry. If they're going to the government, it means that, of course, the government is not going to pay the full dowry. So at the end of the day, the money did not matter. So is there a particular reason why this is happening? What's the benefit to the people involved and what's the benefit to the government?
Especially the government. We seem to be having issues with Azira. Azira, if you can hear us, remember what we talked about before the interview? We asked that if this happens, turn off your video. So if you can hear us, please turn off your video so we can make do with your audio.
Yes.
Once again, Azira, if you can hear us, turn off your video so we can make do with the audio. I'll have the producers let you know.
No.
But let's come back to Enoch. Do you want to go with Enoch? Or?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Enoch, based on your research and report for these, what did the grooms or these new couples, what did they get from the government exactly? Was there a particular amount? We saw from your report there was already a furniture, there was bed, rice, oil and all that. What else did they get from the government?
Well, what they get, the monetary aspect is 200,000 naira. That's 100,000 naira for empowerment, for the lady to start up a business to sustain either herself or the family, and then another 100,000 naira for the bride price. That's the monetary aspect of what the government is giving. Aside that, they'll give some furniture, mattress, pillows, rice, oil, and pasta. Yes, pasta. Yeah, that's just basically what I saw, what they told me. So that's basically what the government is giving to them.
Okay. Did you find out the selection process? How did they select these grooms and brides?
So the selection process, I believe they gave different percentage to different sectors, I believe, because the person who I spoke with is a person with disability, and he told me that they gave them their percentage to bring people who want to get married. So I believe it was maybe like 5% or something. I'm not quite sure the percentage given to PhD. I think it's like 5% or thereabouts that was given to them. They can bring this certain number of people from here. So it is spread across different, I think maybe MDAs or those who are citizens and cannot get married. I think it's a percentage for them. So I think it's spread across different sectors for them to bring people that want to get married, and then for maybe there's a percentage for the general public too. So I believe that's how it's shared, because I know it's by percentages according to what I was told from my interview with my source on Friday.
Enoch, do you know if the incentives being given to these families, these new families, drives their motive? The monies, the bride price, the empowerment, do you think it might be one of the reasons why people are stepping forward to embrace this initiative?
Okay, so while I was speaking with my interviewee like last week, he told me that there are some people who try to fundamentally get into the scheme. A guy and a girl will come and then they'll say, okay, let's get married so I can get this money. And then some of them were caught. Right, some of them were caught. There's some people who they are married before and they tried to register and get married under the scheme and they were caught. So those, I think his part some measures to ensure that those who want to get married or want to come under the scheme for maybe some financial benefits or because what the government is giving are being, some, let's say, taken away. Yeah, so for other reasons, well, maybe some might just maybe happen to fall in love with somebody and they don't have money. So, and since the government is doing something they believe is very good, then they'll just get into it and get married. So everybody has a reason why they want to get married under the scheme, and they are motivated by different things. So I believe there are different reasons why they are motivated to get married to the love of their lives or their husband or wife, this particular scheme.
Now, earlier, Enoch, we talked about tradition with Azira while we had her, and she said it is not unusual to see young women of certain ages, in fact, she mentioned 14 and above, get married in these kinds of traditions. And I'm wondering what the implication is for the government, and if they're considering these implications, are they knowingly marrying off girls to much older men?
Well, so I believe probably, hopefully, I believe their consent must have been sought, either their consent or their parents. But of course, the person who got married is a 17-year-old girl. So someone who is 17 is supposed to be probably in university or maybe finishing her secondary school, and I'm wondering why she's getting married. But some of them don't have problem, getting married at that age, because I remember when I was in university, I had a friend who was married and she was in school. So some of them don't have a problem with it. And some people, someone who is 17 is still, let's say, a teenager. Well, it's up to them as far as they have consent, and it's something that they willingly get into with their full chest. Why not?
Thank you, Enoch. Queen, do you have any more questions for Enoch regarding this?
Enoch, you mentioned earlier, we saw that the government was saying that, most of the people there were not the grooms, but clearly we could see that there was a uniform, there was a tuxedo, and then there was a gown. It was very obvious. So my question now would be, yes. My question now is why these, I think this is the second mass wedding that is happening in the past 5 years. My question now is, Enoch, were you able to find out why the government resolved to this? Because we heard or we saw that the money they spent is 1.5 billion naira. Why didn't they use it for infrastructure, education, or even just help these people do skill acquisitions? Are we saying, based on your reports, that the people in Kano, these people that were selected for this mass wedding, their focus in life right now is to get married and not to build themselves, or they're just chasing the money with the marriage and then they will divorce after? I'm trying to understand, Enoch, help me.
You're stripping away at this, like... Go ahead, Enoch.
So when I asked the commissioner this question that you just asking me now, he said that the government has, number one, they have surpassed their budget declaration for health, which means they are giving a particular percentage of their budget to healthcare, in education. So this allocation is among the highest in the country. And he said that the government has done so many infrastructural works in the state, and that this 1.5 billion for the wedding is something that the people want. And according to what he said there are things like prostitution and other things in the state that are, classified under some social vices, and they're trying to stop this. And according to him, he also said, his actually said that they're trying to stop the spread of some diseases, because some people whose husband had died and their widows, sometimes, they get into some form of, like, say, adultery or fornication and stuff like that. So they're trying to curb all of this with the mass wedding, so that, they will not end up spreading diseases to 10 people via maybe prostitution, the men going out or the men going out. They're trying to make sure that the state is rid of some of this stuff, so that, at least the spread of diseases is going to be reduced, and then there'll be, they'll curb the social, vices, like some of these things that you see happen. So that is what the commissioner said they're trying to prevent. And he said the governor is doing a lot of infrastructure works, doing a lot in education, doing a lot in healthcare. Yeah, there you have it, Queen.
Well, Enoch, you've said it all.
Queen, I want to say something. I don't know whether this is, solving one problem and then causing another one. I'm suspicious of it all, personally, and I'm asking myself, is the government actually working with public health organizations to ensure that they're not causing other problems, especially for these very young women that are getting married? Because there are other implications. Some of them are health implications, and I don't know if they are aware that this could fall back on them. Enoch, did you raise any of these matters with the authorities?
Well, according to what the Mitzvah said, that is a few weeks ago, when they made the announcement of the wedding, they said that, the health authorities are also involved in this, because they do some testing and make sure they are all seats, and that the people who are going to get married are all seats and okay medically to get married, and that, just to make sure everything is fine, everything is okay. So I believe they have done their work, and the people, guys from the healthcare, the health aspect, and those who are going to get married, I wish them a happy home. Well,
Enoch, you've said it to the point where in my mind, I'm like, for the first time, I've seen a state that is saying we don't have problem. Our education is top-notch. Our healthcare, infrastructure, security. We have nothing is disturbing us. Let's get married and produce children, because our children, we have amazing healthcare, education, we're top-notch, PhD, everything. The only state that has everything. I love it. We have 34 states to go.
I also want to say that I don't want to look down on anybody's tradition. If this is tradition, then it's all fine and good.
It's not just tradition.
I'm curious.
It is not just tradition.
But if it isn't tradition, then I'm...
They said the state has done everything. Okay. So we have money in our coffers. Marry us.
If you can hear me.
Yes.
They have done their best, actually, but Kano still has one of the highest rate of maternal mortality. We still have a high rate of out-of-school children, just to point that out, so that the government can also, do more as regards to aspects, because they said they have done a lot. They've done a lot of healthcare, education, and what, the statistics is still staggering, because what's I can say in Kano State, out-of-school children, we still have so many on the street. So yes. I believe the government, they still have to do more. It's not like we don't have any problem in Kano. If there's any way that all these things can be solved, can be solved without us having any problem, I hope it can be solved without having any problem, that we can have as many minutes as possible. Maybe I'll be here in the next batch.
Well, I agree with you, but of course we can see that the government answers and listen to the citizens. So maybe when they cry out for that, we'll have a mass fixture of things. But thank you, Stephen Enoch.
Don't do it. Don't get married.
For this conversation, it was really an interesting one. Enoch, please. Well, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Enoch. All right.
Thank you, you too. While the Kano State Government maintains that the elderly men seen in the viral footage were retirees attending the event wearing the groom's uniform, the episode also raises questions about the importance of transparency when public programs become the subject of public debate. We'll leave it at that. Congratulations to the newlywed. Let's go on a short break. When we return, we have another conversation. Quite an interesting day. Now, across Nigeria, encounters between citizens and the police at checkpoints are a familiar part of everyday life. For many, these encounters end with a routine check and the journey continues. But for Peter Francis, a commercial truck driver, a stop at a police checkpoint in Lagos would change his life forever. On June 12, 2026, Peter was traveling along the Ketu-Ekpe-Ikorodu Expressway with a friend when they were stopped by police officers attached to the Ketu-Ekpe Divisional Station.
Now, what reportedly began with an alleged demand for a 500 naira bribe would escalate into a shooting, with Peter sustaining 2 gunshot injuries after reportedly being rejected by 2 hospitals and waiting more than 8 hours before being attended to. Doctors were eventually forced to amputate his left leg. Now, months after the incident, Peter is left facing the physical, financial, and also emotional consequences of losing a limb and lingering questions. Now, let's first of all take that report by News Central correspondent, and we'll be back to have him in the studio and discuss through this. We'll be back.
It was supposed to be an ordinary drive on the 12th of June 2026. Peter Francis, a commercial truck driver, traveling along the Ketu-Ekpe-Ikorodu Expressway with a friend, was stopped by police officers attached to the Ketu-Ekpe Divisional Station. That stop and their encounter with one of the policemen, one Corporal Tijani Ibrahim, will permanently alter their lives.
He said I should give him money. Then I said that I don't have money to give him. That I've already used the money that I have to buy food, and the food is inside my car with me at front there. So the only thing, we are arguing that one, the only thing I will hear is gunshot. Wow. And I did not come down, I did not even argue anything with them, he didn't drag anything, he just asked me to give him money. And the next thing I will hear is gunshot.
Rejected by 2 nearby hospitals, it took over 8 hours before Peter received proper treatment at the 68th Nigerian Army Reference Hospital in Yaba. By then, severe blood loss and infection left doctors with only one choice: amputate his left leg.
They said they don't have fuel on their van, so I buy them fuel 40,000 naira for they can drive us to this, to 68.
So they first treat it, put iron. Maybe the leg will come back. Leg, after 2 weeks, they told me that the leg has died or something like that. Say the leg I cannot use the leg again than to amputate the leg.
Peter is a husband and father of 3 children. One of them, a 2-month-old baby. The amputation effectively ends his career as a driver, shattering plans he had already set in motion to travel abroad for work. To cover medical bills running into millions of naira, he sells off personal property as support from the Nigeria police has been non-existent.
Working for myself is the only thing that I know that I can survive. But now, no legs for me to walk around, to do any job again. So my life is totally changed to a lower level that myself, I don't want myself to be. I'm going bankrupt. Nobody say myself, I know that my life is going bankrupt. It don't already go already because no work, nothing. Spend almost 8 million naira now. Almost 8 million naira. I've sold some of my property.
Peter's legal team now accuses the police of trying to shift blame, after officers allegedly claim to have found Indian hemp, which is an illegal substance, inside Peter's towed vehicle. An allegation he strongly denies.
Why would somebody be a suspect and you, as a law officer, transferring money to him personally, even when he is in hospital facility? And probably about 5 days later again, the ASP that led the team, which they claim Peter knocked, brought 400,000 naira cash. I have the video evidence and recording of all of this to Peter in the hospital. And ever since, the police never came to check on him. They've never come to check on him. Joseph Oguneye, after the incident, always called Peter's friend, the lady sitting beside him in the vehicle, the eyewitness. He calls the lady and even speaks through the lady's phone with Peter, always praying for Peter that he's so sorry about it. He has kids in the university. He doesn't pray such things to happen to them. So when police now came back to turn around the situation that he knocked the same person, if he had knocked the man would not be praying for Peter.
The Lagos State Police Public Relations Officer, SP Ademola Adeleke, says the incident remains under active investigation, adding that the officers involved are currently being detained. New Central Investigative Unit is unable to ascertain the claims by the state's PPRO, Ademola Adeleke, as at the time of this report. And the Nigerian police is yet to issue an official statement on the shooting of Peter Francis. 2 months after the incident, Peter seems to have been forgotten by the police as he is left to cater for himself while dealing with the realities of losing a limb. Whether this will end up like several other cases where the perpetrators eventually go scot-free and the victim never gets true justice remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: new Central Investigative Units will keep a close watch on this case, with a view to seeing that justice is indeed seen to be done. In Lagos for New Central, Temisa Namwe.
Now we're joined by Temisa Amoye from our investigative unit here at News Central. You're welcome, Temisa. Thank you very much for joining us today. Also, Peter Francis joins us. He's the victim in the case here, and we'll be getting him to speak with us about his experience much later. But first, let's talk with Mr. Amoye here. So, Temisa, first of all, it's a very touching story. So it might be a bit somber in here while we're having you. But I wanted to know the details about this. First of all, when did this happen again?
It happened on the 12th of June, 2026.
So it's this year?
Yeah,
So it's only just been a couple of months, literally a couple of months.
Exactly, a couple of months.
Now, is it confirmed that the bullet that actually hit this individual was from the Nigerian police? And how much responsibility have they taken since after the incident?
Yeah, it was confirmed because it was at the traffic stop I mean, it was at the police checkpoint that the gunshot incident happened, and it was just the policemen there when it happened. In fact, when it happened, when they shot the guy, according to the witness who was in the car with him, it dispersed tear gas.
Oh, wow.
It dispersed tear gas and they took off at that point. So it was soldiers who were around the area who helped them get the police back. And so far...
So the police actually took off? They ran away?
Yeah, they took off. They did take off. They took off. The soldiers around guarding the Lagos State property, there was ones who came, saw the ruckus happening, and they asked the witness, the lady in the car told them this is what happened. And they were like, oh, okay, we know the police station. In fact, we believe we know the team who did this. We'll go to the station and bring them back here. And that's what happened. So when that happened, regarding support for Peter, what happened was, after his hospitalization, the DP of the state of the K2 Police Division, he went to the hospital, he donated blood for Peter, and he sent him 400,000 naira to his personal account, which we saw the receipts in the package. Then the ASP, the leader of the team, the police checkpoint team, also came to the hospital and donated 400,000 naira for Peter. So that's from the DP of the station and the ASP, you have 800,000 combined. But as much as you think 800 is something, compared to what Peter has spent, it absolutely doesn't scratch the surface. This is a truck driver who has been a 33-year-old man. He has been in the truck driving industry for 17 years. He started as a motor boy. So you know he has been there since was at least 16. He knows. That's all he knows. He did not go to school. He doesn't have his certificate. So this is his whole life. And now it has been upturned. He will never drive another truck again. His life has been upturned. Life as he knows it for Peter Francis is unfortunately over.
Wow.
So, Temison, while, you know, the DPO and the ASP is going to contribute, the policemen in that truck, the policemen, we just heard that they're from the division of the K2. Yes. Where are they?
Well, according to the lawyer who I spoke to earlier and the PPRO for the Lagos State Police Command, that's SP Ademola Adeleke, they are under detention because the case is still under investigation as it stands. So the police officers involved are currently under detention, according to them. The lawyer confirmed that when he went to Pantio, so about some weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, they were there. I spoke to the SP, Ademola Adeleke, during the week, and she confirmed they were still under detention.
So they're investigation up until, so that detention, they're not working, they're just there waiting for the investigation to finalize.
Yes.
Interesting.
A very sad, very, very sad report. And now they were also accused of being in possession of cannabis. Were they?
Well, that was what the lawyer was told when he went to the station after.
And did they disprove this? Did they say that they were or weren't?
Well, Peter categorically denied, and it really doesn't make sense if you ask me, because Peter was shot before the car was checked at all. He was shot, so like the lawyer said, how do you know there was cannabis? Do you have a scanner to see what's in the car? And
was he shot at close range? Did the bullet go through the door?
The bullet went through the doors, yeah.
Through the door, because I'm asking this specifically because if it went through the door, then that means it was closed and they perhaps hadn't checked the car.
The door was closed. In fact, he was sitting, like he said, the person asked him for 500. He told him, I don't have. I just bought food. I'm coming off work. But can I transfer to you? It's not like he resisted, said, I'm not giving you. He said, I don't have cash. I'll spend the cash I have. Look at the food here. Can I transfer the money to you? And the policeman, according to the eyewitness, says, you think I'm joking. In street parlance, they whine me a bit inside the play with that kind of thing. And the next thing, there's no chance for conversation, is gunshots. In fact, according to Peter, I think it was adrenaline. He had no idea he had been shot. But suddenly he felt his legs were cold. Told the person in the car, I feel my legs are cold. It's like I've been shot, blood or something. He opens the door, and as he tries to stand, his legs give way and he's down on the floor. Blood everywhere, and he's standing. Like you said, it's a very heartbreaking, somber experience for us.
It is.
You go through life, you have plans for yourself, you come through adversity, you do your best to make sure you're on the right path, and irrespective of what you do, the recklessness of one individual could shatter and change your life forever.
The agency that's supposed to protect.
I wish the police at that time were also checked for substance as well.
Well, I think we have Peter Francis now. Peter, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Peter, good morning. Now, we sympathize with you with what you're going through. But before we talk about what happened on that day, can you just share with us what your regular day would have been like before June 12, 2026?
What I'm doing is I'm truck driver.
Okay. So what happened that day for checkpoint?
Yes, I'm on my way coming back from work that very day. So, and they stopped me. Before I even get to that checking point, I already wind down my glass. So they asked me to, they asked me to on my inner light. So I on the two at once, the back one, the front one at once. So they asked me that, where am I coming from? I told them that I'm coming from work, that I'm working with Sonoma. My company is very close to the place that the thing happened, place that I'm working at Sonoma. So the man said I should give him money. That is, I should give him 500. I said I don't have money with me now, that I've already used my money to buy food. So he asked me, I told him that I want to even do transfer for him. But the man is like, he think I'm playing with you. So as in, the next thing I will hear is gunshot. So I don't know, with tear gas, they shot tear gas too. So they now run away. Me, the next thing I will feel, I now feel that my leg is getting cold. That is the place I now told the person that it's like, my leg is cold, bro. Say, I don't know what is wrong with me. I now get out from my car. From there, I fell down from the ground. That is the only thing again. So there are some soldiers, it's like they are guarding one land around that place. They hear the gunshots. So then I drive come, those soldiers drive come. So then now, as they reach my side, they now say that, so my girl, the passenger that is with me is already shouting for help. So it's the one that shouts, say they have shot my guy. So those soldiers now say that they thought it was a thief. They now say, my guy now to say, it's not a thief, they stop us to give them money, we did not give them money. That's where this thing happened. The soldiers now say that with you, no worries. They have know the team that done the work. They drive back to their station. Before they came back, some people around that place, they have already come to help me. Before them, they come. They now take me to one local hospital around that place. They drive me to like 2 hospitals before they bring me, come to Lagos. To 2 to 3 hospitals. Before they bring me back to Lagos, they go to Mobi. Those ones say that they don't have network to admit me. So they now went to a reference military hospital at Yaba. So that's where they brought me to.
Okay, then, Peter.
So now, Peter,
yes.
After all these things don't happen now, what happen for hospital? They thought say the DPO come, the ACP come, altogether they give you 800,000. But how much you don't spend and waiting life day for you now? The police people, where they?
Those police people. So when they get me to that hospital, so those people, the doctor told the police people that it's 50-50, that maybe they will cut my leg or so those police, they say they should try. So next 3 days, the DPO come and see me, and he transferred 400,000 naira for me at my OP account. So the next 4 or 5 days, 5th day, the ASP Oguni, Joseph Oguni, something like that, he brought 400K cash. And me myself, I already spent almost 6 to 7 million naira to this problem. 6 to 7 million naira on my own after the 800,000 that they give me.
Okay. Now they don't. Now when they don't cut your leg, waiting police people they talk. Waiting they don't talk now since that time. They don't come to help you, tell you say okay. For you now, waiting justice go be like. She may they arrest the police people, may they help you for your life as you know they work again because you not get leg. Waiting you go feel say be the best thing what they feel do for you now.
They don't arrest those police people that shot me. They are at Panty, but those police, nothing from them since where this thing happened. Aside the 800,000, I haven't seen anything from them. They don't even come to me. They don't even call me again. So since then, I haven't heard anything from them. Since then.
So if government, they hear this, your conversation now, what do you feel say government feel do for you? Where you go to say, okay, I don't get justice for this, my matter?
Now to buy me leg, in my business, they want to start off for me. They give me something I will do for my life because I have 3 children. I have wife. My wife self just born. Never reached 3 months now. Self, we're just born. So my first born is 7 years old. Wow. The second one is 3. You see? So no work. I mean, they try to help myself. I don't even do many things. Say, make I use and help myself. My passport, I get passport. Or even my aim is to travel out of this country. So the money, everything, I even budget, gather together to even travel out. All of them, I'll spend all the money on these legs. So I think Nigeria government, they should get me leg, and you know, I can't predict for them. It's only God and depend on, because I know that there is God, sha.
Yeah. Peter once said sorry, not vex, or what did happen to you, but with the hope say government go here and police go come help you with all you're going through. Martino, do you have something to say?
Oh, Peter, just want to say God be with you, and hopefully this will bring awareness to your situation, and hopefully the police would stand up to their responsibility, or even the government. Thank you very much for sharing your experience with us, Peter, and also thank you very much, Temisa, for following through this story and bringing it to our note. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you, Timisan, for this. It's really an eye-opener to see an agency that, were expected to take care of us having to do this. And you mentioned something that was a bit tricky. If the doors were closed, how did you see cannabis? And why would you shoot? Even if the person was a thief, he stopped. So why didn't you arrest?
Even if you were smuggling 60, 100 kg of cannabis, because it's not enough for you to get shot. I've seen NDLA go somewhere, bust. There was this man they busted in VGC for having a house full of tramadol and all that.
They did not shoot him.
They didn't shoot him. You don't even see them beating him. So why would you shoot somebody? And if it's like you said, people are supposed to protect you. And I left to wonder, if the guys who are supposed to protect me from things like this are doing this, who do I not go to for help? Do I resort to self-help, or do I look... Because it's getting to a point where Nigerians are going to think, okay, these guys keep coming, these guys keep coming. There's going to be a counter-reaction. And that's more violence, because this is basically violence.
Exactly.
The police is supposed to maintain law and order and perpetrating violence on innocent people. It's going to get to a point when you push people to a wall, they are going to have to react. And when that reaction happens, we've already seen a glimpse of it before in the past.
Yeah.
Not so long ago. And we don't pursue something like that. But if action is not taken, it's straight to what we're heading for.
So, Temiso, when are we going to get a follow-up for this story? I know that you're still following up. So when are we going to get a definite answer as to what the police is saying and if the government is going to get involved? Well,
when we're doing this report and the whole thing, the lawyer in my presence spoke to the police officer in charge of the investigation and reports. And as of this past week here, the report is still being prepared. That's since, June? July, August.
Basically 2 months.
Yeah, the report is still being prepared. But, I mean, let's give them benefit of doubt. Maybe they are doing due diligence or whatever it is. But 2 months, we're still waiting. So once the report is out, we'll see what happens to the officers. We'll see what plans the police have for Peter. Because Peter mentioned buying leg. For me, it's not just buying leg. It's not just getting a prosthetic leg. The amount of money he has spent at the hospital must, if you ask me, it must be refunded.
Yes.
It must be refunded because he did not put himself in this situation. He did not cause it. None of his actions put him in that situation. And apart from refunding and the prosthetic leg, now, like I said, it's known as...
Life is not the same.
Truck driver all his life. He just said, when we were talking, he said, because I was like, this whole thing has kind of altered plans. He said, I just got passport 2-3 months ago, so he could travel and continue trucking outside. And if in Canada, that's where he mentioned. And if you know about trucking in North America, and Canada, I know it's very lucrative.
Intensive.
It's intensive and also very lucrative. So somebody who has already had that in mind, one evening, everything is gone.
His path for life.
It's gone. So now it's not just about the prosthetic leg, refunding what you have spent on this. The government must now pay for compensation and damages.
Oh, yes.
Oh, now you've lost your leg, you can't do this. Or before you learn how to do something, hold this, you have 3 kids, you have a wife. They must go to school, they must do things. I mean, the other day I was looking at Peter and I was like, he has a 2-month-old child. His wife does give birth through CS. That's the part he didn't mention. So you know how stressful it is. His oldest is 7. There are still kids, the ruckus in the house.
Yes.
And I was looking at Peter holding his crutches and I was like, this guy will never be able to hold his baby and
take a walk.
When the baby is crying, rock your baby because you can't just sit down. Sometimes you need to move, you need to walk about, rock your babies. And Peter can't do that because he needs to focus on his crutches. At best, he sits. And those are some of the things we would not think of. We just look at how he has lost his leg. There's no answer to these things. There's so many things that in his life now have been affected. So it's not just about getting a prosthetic leg, paying for his medicals. The government must compensate Peter accordingly. Then the officers responsible must face justice. It's not just about orderly room trial, suspension. He should be dismissed at least.
Well, Timiso, you've said it all, and the case of Peter Francis raises serious concerns, and we hope, of course, that the government is hearing, of course, serious questions about police accountability, the protection of citizens during encounters with law enforcement. The consequences go far beyond the loss of a limb, like the Misa said, and what is he left with to rebuild his life, And he's pursuing justice, so we hope that, the government will intervene and Peter Francis gets justice. Let's go on a short break. When we return, Mazino is here.
Wellness Extra, not just Mazino, it's going to be Wellness Extra and more. I think it's going to be our final hour. Stay with us. And you're welcome. It's time for the strips for a Sunday. I think we have a pattern here now. It's every Sunday we do the strips. It didn't used to be so, but thank you very much, producers, for not telling me until we changed that. But I never do it alone. Of course, Queen Celestine is joining as well. Celestine, are you ready for today's strips?
I am.
Grand. So we're going to be starting off with a very interesting one. Of course, the Osun politics. And the election just ended yesterday. Now, this cartoon here wastes absolutely no time in telling you what's happening. We have the proverbial incumbent dressed like he has come to collect, well, not just votes, but also the entire election. I'm not talking about who exactly it might be, but there's a club on his shoulder, spikes and all, while an INEC official stands there holding the ballot box. And the message here is that, hey, we don't romance with opposition, we snatch the ballot. Now, remember, this is from before the election. This is from over the week. And that was when we had high anticipation of violence for the elections. Remember, about 30, if not more, people were recorded to have actually been killed. And there were reported cases of stolen PVCs and all of the rest. But thank goodness that we didn't have this issue mar the elections. But it's a very interesting one here, and I think it is from Business Day, if I'm not mistaken. But, well, incumbent INEC, they had something to prove, and I think judging from yesterday's conduct of the elections, I don't know. Would you give them a pass mark? Would you say that this cartoon doesn't fully accomplish what it set out to do at the beginning of the week? It's from The Guardian, by the way, Celestine. What do you think?
Well, you said it all. I think I like the fact that the INEC man was standing right there. I think it's just portraying...
That's a by the way. Yeah. I don't know if it's that short, but...
I think it's just portraying INEC, saying that, we're trying to make sure that it is free and fair. We're not here for anything. But of course, the election is over, and hopefully we don't end up in court, Mazino.
Hopefully we don't end up in court. I'm not too sure about the way the incumbent was pictured here. It was like if you're talking about the incumbent, you're talking about the governor currently, and that's Adeleke. And would you say that his instrument was actually to snatch ballot boxes, or did he gain this election plainly on his personality?
When you say that, looking at his weapon, it has a particular sign of another party. And remember when, EFCC froze the account and then we got a call, unfreeze it.
You've just sold it all. I have nothing else to add to that. I never saw that from before. This is why I need you to do it with me every single time. But now let's go to another matter. Let's talk about loans and why exactly we keep taking on these loans. It's our next cartoon strip for today. Let's always note. Now, I'm going to look out for that insignia every single time. We're moving to this one now. Osun politics to Nigeria's favorite national accessory, debt. Let's keep getting those loans. Here's a man, of course, you might know who it might be. He's struggling under the massive sack labeled loans. And he's been asked a reasonable question. Is this debt not getting too much? And the answer, of course, from him is that don't worry, it's transferable, according to him. It's transferable, he says. Now, that's the joke, but unfortunately, it's also the same as a nightmare. Because debt may be transferable, but the consequences of debt is not imaginary. The government continues to borrow even up until today, and another government will inherit what the government of today borrows. And ultimately, Queen, the citizens carry that way through taxes, through reduced spending space, higher interest costs, fewer resources for public services. I mean, Nigeria has about 15.8 trillion naira for debt servicing alone for 2026. So the cartoon is really asking whether we have reached the point where borrowing has become less about investing for tomorrow and more about simply moving today's problems into tomorrow's accounts. What do you think, Queen?
Well, when he says it's transferable, it's a bit scary because that means the generation, I don't know what generation that's coming, Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Alpha, maybe we'll start again, the silent generation from, the beginning. I don't know which generation is going to inherit it, but it's pretty sad that we are still there. And, I don't know.
Yes,
I don't know,
indeed.
but the bird is an owl.
Is it an owl?
It is.
I don't know what it might be. But the thing is, for most of us, when we hear that it's transferable, we always think about our children. But in a more political sense, it's the next administration that's going to have to take on that burden. But did this administration enter into its office without also inheriting debt itself? That's another question to ask. And the debt that it has been able to gather so far, what has it been used for? Development? How much of that have we seen? Is it working? Are they still in the course of using this to make infrastructure for Nigeria? Something comes to mind, Lagos-Calabar Highway. The profits that would bring, we can't see it now. And the truth is, the president's administration might have to end before you start seeing the dividends. So you want to be careful how you judge these infrastructure that are built out of these loans that we're talking about here.
But real quick, I want to say something.
Okay.
It says an owl can turn its head 270 degrees, not 360.
Queen.
Even nature understands that there is a limit to how far you can keep turning.
Nice. I see what you did there. Okay, good. Okay, very soon we'll
Clock
be able to. Thank you for that addition. Let's talk about religion, politics, and violence all in the same room now. Let's talk about our third cartoon for today. This one, it's a very dark one. And the cartoon is bringing together the combustible issues of Nigeria: religion, politics, insurgency, violence, and everything that's surrounding both the insurgency in the north and Osun State politics from yesterday. One character is announcing that he wants to start a religious war. Another one is reporting that he has already declared a political one in Osun State. Of course, you know who that was. If you remember the Fadehusi issue from over the week last week about the viral video and what he told supporters of the APC to do to Accord party members. And behind them, there are people who are literally being dragged along under the banner of anti-truth army with guns in their background, by the way. Now, the cartoon's warning, well, it's very simple. Once truth becomes a casualty, almost anything can be sold to the public, whether it's religion, whether it's politics, fear, hatred, eventually violence as well. And that is why comments by influential religious or political figures matter, especially during seasons like yesterday. You can't pour petrol on political arguments. And when it comes to matters of insurgency, you have to be careful if you're a person of note. What you say carries plenty of weight. Osun has already entered election. They've voted. Adeleke is the winner, governor-elect. Congratulations that none of these inflammatory rhetorics took advantage of the situation. So congratulations, Osun. Congratulations to the Adelekes. Celestine, what do you think?
Well, all I can say is, for you to know the truth, you have to see clearly. So the guys being blinded and they say they're the truth army. Clearly, they're not seeing anything, and it's just it's a cause for concern as to where we're going. It's Nigeria theater show. Who is performing? Because right now the stage is really falling apart.
I just realized that those men who have their eyes covered are actually dragging not just an individual, but he's actually a cleric. He's actually a cleric. That's a man of the cloth.
Yep.
Which adds a very sentimental note to the entire cartoon. Thank you very much, Asuko. The thing with Asuko's cartoons, you really have to look at every single thing, every little insignia there, like that one.
Yes.
I didn't see it from before, but now that we have the picture all blown up, I'm like, that's a preacher. Okay, let's move on to our final one. Sheyi Tinubu has entered our cartoons today. This is a very interesting one. He's talking about his father. He does this all the time. My father does that, does this. Sheyi Tinubu here is commenting about his father, President Bola Tinubu. Cartoon is taking claims that the president, his father, is an extraordinary worker. His ethics, well, it makes him like the best president in the world. Now, in the first panel here, you can see that the president is apparently trekking to work, as he says, but yeah, I think Asuko, no, this Okpara makes him a snail here. And then in the second panel, we hear that the president eats only once a day. And suddenly there's this enormous plate of food sitting in front of him. And the humor is actually exaggerated, I know, but Shea is apparently telling his intention here is to paint his father as a president who is constantly working, constantly sacrificing, constantly focused on the job. But Okpara here basically says, fine, let's take that all literally, let's overdo it. And that's what the political cartoon here does best, exaggerate so you understand it. Let's take that big pot of rice once a day, but what's the value of what it is that you gain from being president? And how does it trickle down to the people? It might be exaggerated, but for some people it isn't. If you look at the lifestyles of especially people in political offices as compared to the people they're supposed to lead, not telling the same story. I mean, telling Nigerians that the president works extraordinary and is a hard work, that's just praise. But when Nigerians are struggling with consequence of government policies that you made as a president, and ultimately what they see is that, exactly that. What do you think, Queen?
Well, coming from the pageant world, when they ask you who's your role model, my mother. So for every child, their parents will always be their parent. They will always look up to their parents and admire them. That is a child to his father, regardless. But now his father is the president. So the people are not seeing him as a father. They are seeing him as the president. And of course, being the president, the country will blame you for everything because you are in charge of everything. So you're saying he's trekking to work, you know, of course, he's close to his father. He can see the ups and downs behind the scenes. But in reality, Nigerians are like, yes, he's your father, but he's our president. Let him do the work for us. So I think
let him be our father as well.
Exactly.
You don't see anywhere in the future of political office somewhere in there for him?
Just adopt all of us.
Adopt all of us, like Kano State, marry us. In any case, those are the 4 cartoons we crawled out from during the week, from the dailies, The Guardian, Business Day, and I think, I can't remember the last one. But they do talk true to life when you take the interpretations, you know, and add it to whatever sentiments we have going about, and the cynicism of Nigerians. Thank you very much. That's our strips for today. Every single Sunday now, we have our strips, and we hope that you could send some in, or maybe point us in the right direction if you want any interpretations, or if you think one of them might feature correctly on our show. Thank you very much, Queen. I'll be right back there to have our final conversations here for Breakfast Extra. Thank you. Morning once again and welcome. Final hour here for Breakfast Extra, and this is Focus Africa. Now, Zambia's 2026 general elections is facing fresh scrutiny after incidents of violence and attacks on election officials raised concerns over the integrity of the electoral process. The Electoral Commission of Zambia has suspended vote counting in some areas following reports of violence against election officials and the theft of marked ballot papers. The developments have also heightened concerns over whether the final result will reflect the will of Zambian voters.
And President Hakainde Hichilema is seeking a second term in office, with the opposition also mounting a strong challenge. But beyond who wins the election, questions are now being raised about the credibility of the process itself. What does the violence mean for Zambia's democracy? Can the Electoral Commission maintain public confidence in the results? And what safeguards are needed to ensure that disputes do not escalate further? And joining us to examine these issues and the bigger democratic picture in Zambia is Linda Kasonde, who's the Executive Director of LCK Freedom Foundation. Linda, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on Focus Africa inside of Breakfast Extra. Now, let's begin with the incident of, violence reported during the election. How serious are these developments? And what do they tell us about, the state of Zambia's electoral process?
Queen, firstly, thank you for having me. And Mazimo, it really is concerning because Zambia has been known to hold peaceful elections since 1991, which was the year we returned to multi-party democracy. So we've seen violent attacks mainly by the ruling political party supporters on the opposition, although there have been some other attacks by the opposition. And in this particular election, the the army has been deployed to police not only polling day, but post-polling day. And most worryingly also is allegations of abductions and armed abductions specifically of opposition political party leaders, specifically the spokesperson of the NRPUP, which is the leading opposition political party, who also happens to be a former Bar Association president, had been abducted by armed uniformed men last night, and has now been found at a police station in an area called Charleston, and his family are not being allowed access to him. So it remains to be seen what he's been charged with, but the allegation seems to be that he's been charged with treason. Another political party leader of the Independence Political Party, UNIP, Bishop Trevor Mwamba, has also gone missing, and his whereabouts are unknown to this day. It is also alleged that the opposition political party leader, Brian Mundubile, the presidential candidate, is also missing, and his house was ransacked on the 14th of August. So these are all very worrying trends, especially in the wake of the suspension of the votes on the 14th of August, which was unprecedented in our country. We've never had a nationwide suspension of the vote tallying and vote announcements ever in our country. These are all unprecedented things that are happening. We typically never have abductions or any serious level of violence in our country. So we're quite worried about what it says about the electoral integrity of this election.
Linda, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm here looking at the history of Zambian elections since 1991, and I've seen it move from the MMD to PF to UPND, and there has been little or no trends that we see happening here in 2026. So I'm wondering how these trends, as you call them, could affect the integrity of the elections currently.
Well, specifically, we don't know if the period under which the suspension happened, because at that point, all polling agents, all election observers, all election monitors were removed from where the ballots were being kept. So there is some concern that perhaps the ballots were not safe during that time, as they were under police and army guard. So that is really of concern. And given the nature of these abductions and other kinds of violence, there is credible reason to doubt whether the incumbent would be prepared to accept defeat in the event that the elections do not go his way. As I mentioned earlier, what is happening in Zambia now is completely unprecedented.
And was the ECZ, do you think that it was, well, it was okay for it to suspend these elections at the point of these recorded violence or kidnappings?
I think the first thing I must say, even before the election was held, when the commissioners of the Electoral Commission were appointed, several members of the commission were thought to be, well, actually are affiliated to the ruling party. So there was credible reason, question about their independence and impartiality. So the Law Association of Zambia, which is the Bar Association in Zambia, issued a statement yesterday denouncing the decision to suspend the voting and tallying of results. So there are lots of players in the country who are very concerned. Civil society also yesterday issued a joint statement calling into raising the alarm about the electoral environment in which this particular election is being held.
Right. So, Linda, do we know who was responsible for these attacks, this strength, or should we be careful about attributing, this to political responsibility?
What we do know is that the NRPUP spokesperson is now under police guard at Charleston Police Station. charged with treason after having disappeared. His family have issued a statement to that effect, and the Law Association of Zambia is looking into the matter. So that is definitely a credible report. Also, the disappearance of Bishop Trevor Mwamba, the president of UNEP, is also been verified by his family, specifically his wife, who is a former Deputy Secretary General of the Commonwealth. So these are credible reports. He has officially been reported missing.
Interesting. Now let's talk about the ballot boxes. They were affected ballot papers. Would you say that the Electoral Commission now can account for those papers and establish that the chain of custody still remains intact?
To my knowledge, they haven't sufficiently addressed that issue. There was a press briefing yesterday at which that question was specifically asked and was not directly responded to.
Okay, now with everything that is happening here, it's like Zambia's democratic process is being put to the test in 2026. And even after all of this, after the results might have been announced, and if nothing goes wrong after then, do you think that Zambia will step away from this seeming differently? Do you think it will still uphold that place in Africa's history as one of the African countries with the least problems when it comes to transfer of governance?
I think what we can say is that democracy is definitely under threat currently, given the happenings around this particular election. Because previously, as you mentioned, we've had smooth transitions of power. Our elections, when contested, are contested through courts. We've never had unrest, unlike what we see in other countries in the region. So what we're experiencing now is foreign to our country.
Right. So, Linda, would you say suspending, the counting was the correct decision to make at this time, or the suspension has actually raised more suspicion?
It has definitely raised more suspicion because the reason given by the Electoral Commission for suspending the vote was that there were a few incidences of violence in polling stations. I think some polling agents were allegedly being attacked. And that does not justify a nationwide suspension of vote tallying and vote announcements by any stretch of the imagination. So there is no credible reason for that nationwide suspension.
Linda, worst case scenario, what happens if both parties were to reject the outcome of the elections? Worst case scenario?
Presumably, that would have to be determined by a court of law, and then there would have to be a new election. But of course, there's a difference between the presidential election and the parliamentary elections. If you're speaking about the presidential election, then that would be contested through a presidential petition, and the court would decide what would happen in terms of whether or not there's need to call for a fresh election.
Yes. You and other civil society had warned earlier before the elections that there were going to be political violence and intimidation. Would you say that they did not take those warnings seriously?
Like I mentioned, this is completely unprecedented. So many people, even now, when we have reported incidents of abductions and of President Mundubile's house, opposition political president, Brian Mundubile's house being ransacked, people don't believe it. And in fairness, there has been some misinformation on social media, which has caused the reason for disbelief. But these are credible reports which can be verified.
Okay.
Let's look at the sequence of events here from when violence erupted for the elections here. After the violence, there was the ECZ suspension. The ballots the ballots were secured. There were also parallel results, by the way, and of course, premature victory claims. These premature victory claims, exactly from where were they coming and how has it influenced the conditions currently?
So at the time that ECZ announced the suspension, the leading opposition party leader, Brian Mundubile, went on social media and announced that he had won the presidential election, which of course was ill-advised because at that point, very few constituencies had their votes announced. So very premature. But I think that there are credible institutions such as the Christian Churches Monitoring Group that do parallel voter tabulation. So it'll be interesting to see how their results compare to those against the official Electoral Commission results. But they have been hesitant to release their parallel votes tabulation because of the potential of being accused of not giving official results and possible prosecution as a result.
Okay, Linda, I think to what extent would you say political parties and their supporters bear responsibility in situations like this? What would you say they should be doing now to reduce these tensions?
They should definitely be calling for calm. Unfortunately, we haven't really seen any statements from either the ruling party president or the opposition party leader, Brian Mundubile, in the recent days calling for calm and a respect of the official process. On the part of Mr. Mundubile, it could be because he has now allegedly gone missing.
Okay.
But I think it's incumbent on all leaders in our country to call for peaceful, calm, and fair elections so that we have a credible result. But given what we've seen so far, definitely there is serious question as to whether or not these elections have been free and fair.
Linda, let's remove the individuals, the parties and all. Let's talk about the people who matter most, the voters. How have they taken the instances that have followed these violence, these disappearances, these securing of ballot boxes? What are they saying? What's the chatter? Do they still believe in the integrity of the ECZ? And, well, do you think that they still believe in the ECZ itself?
So on the day that ECZ called the suspension of the vote tallying and vote announcements, that's on the 14th of August, there was a bit of unrest following that announcement, given the suspicion that something untoward was happening. But since then, the country, or certainly in Lusaka, I can speak of with authority, there has been general calm. But I think things may change as more results are announced.
If things change, where would be the ground zero if they do?
Probably, the two epicenters would probably be Lusaka and the Copperbelt, which have the largest voter populations. So those are areas to watch out for.
Right. So, Linda, Brian, Mundubile has made claims about, victory before the official declaration. How dangerous are these premature victories in this situation?
Well, thankfully, it wasn't announced too close to the tallying of all the results, because that probably would have led to an inflamed situation. Like I mentioned, there were some unrest when the suspension was announced, but that seems to have quietened down. And I think I've mentioned earlier that the army has been deployed to police this particular election. So there's also some unease as to that situation. As you know, the Zambia Police Service are the only constitutionally mandated body or institution that are meant to guard the internal security of a country. So this is also a point of departure from other elections.
Right. So, Linda, what would be your advice now to the citizens of Zambia in terms of this situation? Will you tell them to say, you know what, trust the process, let's trust and see what comes out of this? What would you say to them?
I think we should wait for the official results to come out. The Electoral Commission had earlier indicated that they would give the announce within 72 hours of the closing of the final polling station, but it looks like there may be some delay. We may know the final result by Monday, but it's yet to be seen.
Okay. I want to say thank you so much, Linda Kasunde, who's the Executive Director of LCK Freedom Foundation, for joining us to have this conversation. Like you said, we have up until Monday to know what happens or the outcome of this election. Thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Queen. Thank you, Mazimo.
All right.
Bye.
Welcome back. And erroneously, I said that we had Wellness Extra from before. That would not be what the segment is. Let's just take a recap of everything that we've done from the start of the show. In fact, from the start of the weekend. Yesterday was the ballot as we gathered here along with our correspondents across Nigeria to bring you the details of what's happening inside of Osun State. Today, the announcement came through. And of course, incumbent Governor Adeleke has been re-elected and is now the governor-elect of Osun State. Unlike what it was that we thought would happen from before, well, it wasn't as violent as it had been thought to be. And of course, we are still expecting to see where it's going to go from here, as Osun State has had a history of taking to the courts the election results. We have our fingers crossed and we wait to see. But Queen, here is where things change just for a bit. Because unlike most other Osun elections, the people were a big part of this one. First off, we thought that they were not going to come out to vote because of voter apathy and the violence that had marred most of the campaign season. But then there was a very good turnout, of which it's told that there was plenty of women voters who came out. And at the end, Ademola Adeleke has become the governor-elect again. Aoye Bamiji did put up a good fight, but Najim Salam, well, that was not what I expected. I expected quite more from the ADC. But then again, as a small party, as a contending party, one who made it into the big three, I don't put anything. I'm not saying that they didn't do too good.
Well, after this win, you just ask yourself, from 14 to 15 on the ballot paper, then we're talking about the big three. And now, we talked about how Adeleke had moved from the PDP to the Accord and how he had moved with some people, supporters there. And of course, Benga confirmed that apart from what he has done for Osun State, he had also moved supporters from PDP to the Accord for him to win. And of course, there were questions asked to the ADC. Does that mean that Rauf Aregbesola does not really have any more political hand in Osun State in terms of influence, his turnout for the elections? And of course, yesterday we heard about some, thuggery and fight.
Skirmishes. I'll call them skirmishes, nothing to overly be worried about.
Exactly. But
great deployment of security forces and agencies across all the wards.
25,000 personnel across, which we also mentioned as to, is that the way it's going to be for the general elections come, 6 months plus. So these are concerns, but we're happy that people showed up. This is an example of what it means for you to come out and choose for what you want. So I hope that Nigerians will take lessons. We saw a lot of older, elderly people there. Nee spoke to a lady who's 125, and she made a comment to say, I'm not just voting for myself, I'm voting for my children, for my next generation. We saw the strip today that Mazino did that had the owl and the transferable debt. We're not doing transferable skills, we're doing transferable debt. So if we don't come out and vote for our next generation, we'll be dancing or crying in our graves, so to speak.
Speaking of dancing, I'm wondering when the governor is going to break a move.
Very soon.
What's the move?
Very soon. At this point, I'm sure some people are saying, Davido, give us free concert. Give us free concert.
That might happen. But then, I know we're almost done, but I just wanted to say this, and real quick. That Benga also talked. We had a session from earlier where we had Benga who joined to talk about the victory for Adeleke, and he talked about the popularity or the familiarity of the governor. And I wanted to say that this also could be one of the reasons why you might have had. I haven't seen the stats yet on the youth vote, but if the youth vote tilts towards plenty of their votes going to him, then it will be the Davido factor. I'm just saying.
Well, that means popularity kind of translates somewhere.
Popularity
somehow.
You've seen people move from the movies and go into politics, and that's what they're taking with them. They're taking the currency of the people that follow them.
And Menga mentioned something that was very apt, and it said, two brothers from the same family having to be governors in a state. So there is something about them so that is history as well. So Well, I feel like, that's what they wanted. Today we've seen people getting what they want, like the Kano State with the mass wedding.
Oh, you were very excited about that. She was very excited about that.
They don't want anything else. They just want to marry.
In any case, Queen, we have come to the end of today's show.
Yes, we have.
Thank you to our viewers for joining us since yesterday morning, since last week, because this is the beginning of a totally different week, and it's going to be grand, we promise. So especially here for breakfast throughout the week on News Central. This is Breakfast Extra. This is where we draw the curtains. But don't forget to tune in tomorrow morning for Breakfast Central, where we have is it 3 or 4 now?
3. But before we end, let's tell you that the views and opinions of all our guests are theirs only and are not associated with News Central. And of course, Joe, Olive, and Benga will be with you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Au revoir.